Some decisions seem small when you make them, insignificant choices made in the span of a heartbeat, forgotten before the day ends. Until they come back. Until they demand everything you have, everything you are, and everything you thought you knew about the people you love most. Blake Walker believed giving orders over the radio was just part of the job. On that October night in Los Angeles, with the city lights bleeding orange against a bruised sky, he would discover that a single order could cost him a brother and unearth secrets that had been buried for 2 years in unmarked graves of silence and necessary lies. The call came in at 11:47 p.m. Blake was reviewing patrol schedules in the station, his coffee gone cold in a chipped mug that read, "World's Okayest Sergeant." He'd been a Sergeant I with LAPD for 8 years, long enough to know when something felt wrong, long enough to trust his gut more than the reports that crossed his desk. He was the kind of cop other cops respected, the kind who knew exactly when to speak and when to let silence do the work. In a department full of talkers and glory hunters, Blake Walker's restraint made him dangerous in all the right ways. The dispatch crackled through the station radio. Reported stolen vehicle black Escalade located at 1847 Industrial Boulevard Warehouse District. Vehicle appears abandoned. Requesting unit for investigation and recovery. Blake studied the duty roster spread across his desk. His eyes caught on a name, and his hand paused over his coffee mug. Officer Cole Walker, his little brother. 6 months out of the academy, still carrying that fresh-faced belief that the world operated on clear rules and predictable outcomes. Still young enough to think the badge meant something more than a target on your chest. Their parents had died in a car accident 4 years ago. A drunk driver on the 405, gone in an instant, no time for goodbyes or final words. Since then, Blake and Cole had only each other. Blake was 32, Cole was 24. 8 years between them, but it might as well have been a lifetime. Blake had learned hard truths that Cole was still innocent of, and he carried the silent responsibility of keeping it that way for as long as possible. He picked up the radio. The warehouse district was low-risk territory, probably just some joyrider who'd dumped the vehicle and run. Standard procedure, secure the scene, call for a tow, file the paperwork. Nothing Cole couldn't handle with his training officer riding along. Blake pressed the transmit button. Unit 4 Adam 19, respond to 1847 Industrial Boulevard for vehicle recovery. Proceed with standard protocol. The radio crackled. Cole's voice came through, young and confident. Copy that, Sergeant. 4 Adam 19 responding. Blake set down the radio and returned to his schedules. He had 3 more hours on shift, a mountain of administrative backlog, and a department budget meeting in the morning that he was already dreading. The stolen Escalade became just another line item in an endless stream of petty crimes and bureaucratic obligations. 43 minutes later, his phone rang. The voice on the other end belonged to Lieutenant Sarah Chen, Night Watch Commander. Her words were clipped, professional, but Blake could hear something underneath, something that made his blood go cold. Blake, we have officers down at 1847 Industrial. You need to get there now. He didn't remember the drive. One moment he was in the station parking lot. The next he was pulling up to the warehouse with his headlights cutting through the darkness like surgical blades. 3 patrol cars were already there, their light bars painting the scene in alternating splashes of red and blue. An ambulance sat with its back doors open, paramedics moving with urgent precision. Blake's shoes hit the pavement and he was running before he consciously decided to move. A uniformed officer tried to stop him at the warehouse entrance. "Sir, this is an active crime scene. That's my brother in there." Blake's voice came out flat, dead. The officer stepped aside. The warehouse was a cavern of shadows and rusted metal. Sodium lights hanging from the ceiling cast everything in a sickly yellow glow. In the center of the space sat the black Escalade, exactly as reported, and around it, the wreckage of what should have been a routine call. Officer Martinez lay on the concrete floor, Cole's training partner for the past 6 months. Blake had met him at the station, a good cop with 3 kids and a 4th on the way. His service weapon was still in its holster, a single gunshot wound to the back of the head. Execution style. 20 feet away, the paramedics worked on Cole. Blake's knees nearly buckled when he saw his brother. Cole was conscious, but barely, his uniform soaked dark with blood from a chest wound. His face was ash gray, his breathing shallow and wet. The paramedics had him on a backboard, an oxygen mask over his face, IV lines running. Cole. Blake dropped to his knees beside the gurney. Cole, can you hear me? His brother's eyes found his. There was recognition there, and something else. Fear, confusion, and a question Blake couldn't answer. Cole's hand moved weakly, reaching for Blake's sleeve. Didn't see them. Cole's voice was barely a whisper beneath the oxygen mask. Blake, they were waiting. Don't talk. Save your strength. You're going to be fine. The lie tasted like ash, but Blake forced conviction into his voice. You're going to be fine. The senior paramedic, a woman with kind eyes and blood on her gloves, touched Blake's shoulder. We need to move him now. UCLA Medical Center Trauma Unit. Are you family? I'm his brother. Then you need to follow us there. We're losing time. They loaded Cole into the ambulance. Blake watched the doors close, watched the vehicle pull away with lights and sirens screaming into the night. He stood in the warehouse, surrounded by the evidence of violence, and felt something crack inside his chest. Lieutenant Chen appeared at his elbow. Blake, I need you to walk me through what happened, from the beginning. So he did. He told her about the dispatch call, about sending Cole to investigate the abandoned vehicle, about the routine nature of the assignment. He told her everything he knew, which wasn't much, and then she asked the question that would haunt him. Does this seem personal to you? Like someone was targeting your officers specifically? Blake took 1 second too long to answer. In that heartbeat of hesitation, he saw Chen's eyes narrow slightly. Not that I know of, he finally said. It was true. It was also incomplete. The investigation moved quickly. By dawn, detectives had pulled together a preliminary picture. The Escalade was a plant, stolen specifically to draw officers to that location. The warehouse had been staged as an ambush. Whoever did this knew police protocol, knew response times, knew exactly how to set the trap. And they had a lead, a vague one, but better than nothing. Detective Frank Morrison laid out the evidence in the hospital waiting room where Blake had spent the last 6 hours. Cole was in surgery. The doctors said the next 24 hours were critical. Blake had barely heard them. We're looking at a crew, Morrison said, spreading crime scene photos across the small table. Highly organized, professional, their specialty is high-end vehicle theft. But this, he gestured at the photos. This is different. This is a message. Blake's hands clenched into fists. What kind of crew? That's the thing. 2 years ago, there was a major task force operation. Took down one of the biggest car theft rings in Southern California. The operation was led by... Morrison checked his notes. Led by you, actually. Sergeant Walker. The suspect's warehouse was raided, ended in a fire. Official reports say nobody survived. The room felt suddenly airless. Blake forced himself to breathe normally, to keep his expression neutral. That's correct. The building collapsed. We recovered remains, but... He paused, choosing his words carefully. The fire damage was extensive. Identification was difficult. Morrison nodded slowly. Right. But what if someone did survive? What if this is revenge? Then we need to find them. Blake's voice was steady, cold. Where's the lead? Pasadena. We've got reports of a similar operation running out there. Same MO, same level of sophistication. But here's the problem. Jurisdiction, Blake finished. Pasadena PD has to handle it. Exactly. We've reached out, but between department politics and legal boundaries, Morrison spread his hands helplessly. Our hands are tied. Blake nodded. He didn't argue, didn't push. He simply absorbed the information and filed it away in the part of his mind that was already making plans. "I understand," he said. "Keep me updated on anything new." He stayed at the hospital for 3 more days. Cole came out of surgery alive but slipped into a medically induced coma. The doctors said it was necessary. His body needed time to heal, time to recover from the trauma. Blake sat beside his brother's bed, watching the monitors, listening to the steady beep of the heart rate display, and made 2 decisions. First, he requested protective detail for Cole. 2 officers, armed, stationed outside his hospital room at all times. No exceptions, no gaps in coverage. Lieutenant Chen approved it without question. Second, he requested 2 weeks of personal leave. Family emergency. Again, Chen didn't hesitate. "Take the time you need, Blake. We've got you covered." Nobody asked what he planned to do with that time. Nobody wanted to know. Pasadena was 20 miles from downtown Los Angeles, a different world in a dozen small ways. Blake checked into a roadside motel off Colorado Boulevard, the kind of place that rented rooms by the week and didn't ask questions. He paid cash and used a name that wasn't on his driver's license. For 5 days, he worked the streets. He talked to mechanics in legitimate shops and asked careful questions. He hung around auto parts stores and watched who came and went. He followed up on rumors and half-remembered stories, building a picture piece by piece. The crew was still active. They operated out of a body shop on the east side, a place called Premium Auto Restoration. On paper, it was a legitimate business. In practice, it was a front for one of the most sophisticated vehicle theft operations in the state. Blake didn't have jurisdiction, didn't have backup, didn't have authority to make arrests or execute warrants. He was just a cop on leave, gathering information he legally couldn't act on. But he gathered it anyway. On the 6th night, he returned to his motel room at 11:30 p.m. The door was unlocked. Blake's hand went to his service weapon before he even processed the thought. He pushed the door open slowly, sweeping the small room with practiced efficiency. Nothing appeared stolen. His laptop was still on the desk. His spare weapon was still in the lockbox under the bed. But someone had been there. Drawers were pulled open. His clothes had been rifled through. Papers were scattered. And on the bed, placed precisely in the center of the cheap comforter, was a note. Blake picked it up with 2 fingers, careful not to smudge any potential prints. The message was printed in block letters on plain white paper. Brother for brother. The police won't save him. He read it 3 times. Then he pulled out his phone and started to dial the station, started to call for backup, started to do what a cop should do. His thumb hovered over the screen. If he called it in, they'd pull him off the case. They'd tell him he was too close, too compromised. They'd protect Cole with standard procedures and department protocols, the same procedures that had failed to keep him safe the first time. Blake put the phone away. He grabbed his car keys and his backup weapon. Whatever was coming, he was going to face it alone. The drive back to Los Angeles took 18 minutes at speeds that would have gotten him pulled over if he'd been anyone else. He tried calling the hospital 3 times. No answer from the nurses' station. No answer from the protective detail. No answer from Cole's room. His hands were shaking on the steering wheel by the time he pulled into the UCLA Medical Center parking garage. He took the stairs 3 at a time, his badge out, his weapon ready. The 7th floor was quiet. Too quiet. The nurse's station was empty, abandoned coffee cups still steaming. The hallway stretched ahead of him, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. Cole's room was at the end of the hall. The door was closed. And in front of it, both protective officers lay on the ground in spreading pools of blood. Blake didn't remember drawing his weapon. He hit the door with his shoulder, gun up, ready to fire. The room was chaos. The real doctor lay across Cole's bed, dead from multiple gunshot wounds. Medical equipment was overturned, and the bed was empty. Blake's heart stopped. "Cole!" A gunshot answered him. The bullet came from the bathroom, punching through the doorframe 6 inches from Blake's head. He dropped and rolled, returning fire, 2 shots center mass. The man in the bathroom went down hard. Blake was moving before the body hit the tile, clearing angles, watching for threats. 2 more men appeared in the doorway behind him. He spun, but they were faster, already firing. The shots came from behind them. Both men dropped before Blake could pull the trigger, and standing in the hallway, holding a service weapon in shaking hands, was Cole. His little brother looked like death warmed over. The hospital gown hung on his frame, bandages visible beneath it, an IV line still trailing from his arm. His face was sheet white, sweat beading on his forehead, but his eyes were clear, and the gun in his hands was steady. "Blake," Cole's voice was rough, damaged. "I'm okay. I'm okay." Blake crossed the room in 2 strides and caught his brother as Cole's legs gave out. "What the hell happened? How are you?" "The doctor." Cole gestured weakly toward the body on the bed. "That's not my doctor." He came in with a stethoscope and a white coat. And I didn't recognize him at first. But then I saw his hands. I saw the tattoo on his wrist. Same tattoo as the guy who shot me in the warehouse. Blake's blood ran cold. "You're sure?" "I'm sure. He killed the real doctor. Killed the officers outside. I was supposed to be sedated, but the medication hadn't kicked in yet. I got the nurse to hide in the supply closet and grab one of the officers' weapons. It was the only play I had." Blake pulled out his phone and dialed Lieutenant Chen. "I need backup at UCLA Medical Center, 7th floor, right now. Multiple officers down, multiple suspects down. We have an active situation." Chen's response came back sharp and immediate. "Impossible, Blake. We've got a bomb threat at the Westfield Mall. Every available unit is responding. You're on your own for at least 30 minutes. Blake looked at his phone like it had just spoken a foreign language. "A bomb threat? Right now?" "Evacuation in progress. I'm sorry, Blake, but you'll have to hold position until we can free up resources." The line went dead. Blake stood there, phone in hand, and felt the pieces sliding into place. Cole watched his face and understood immediately. "It's a diversion," Cole said quietly. "The bomb threat. They're clearing the police away from here." Blake nodded slowly. "How many do you think are coming?" "All of them." Cole tried to stand, managed it on the second attempt. "Blake, there's something you need to know about that operation 2 years ago. The one where you supposedly killed everyone in the warehouse. Cole, now's not the time. I know one of them survived." Cole's voice was steady despite the pain. "And I know you knew about it. You've known for 2 years, and you never told anyone." Blake felt the world tilt. "Cole, I don't know what you—" "It was me, Blake." Cole met his brother's eyes. "I was undercover in that crew, 3 months deep. And when the raid went down, when the fire started, I was inside. You found me. You got me out. And then you made it disappear from the official record." The silence between them was louder than gunfire. "You covered for me," Cole continued. "You falsified reports. You protected me. And because of that, they think I betrayed them. They think I'm the reason their operation burned. They want revenge, and they're willing to go through you to get it." Blake's throat was dry. "Why didn't you tell me you remembered? Why didn't you say something?" "I didn't remember. Not until tonight. Not until I saw that tattoo again. It all came back. The undercover work, the extraction, watching you fill out reports that wrote me out of the story entirely." Cole's hand gripped Blake's arm. "You saved my life twice, Blake. Once in that fire, and once by erasing me from the records. If Internal Affairs had known I was there, unauthorized, no backup, no official sanction, they would have crucified both of us." Heavy footsteps echoed in the hallway. Multiple sets, moving with military precision. Blake counted at least 8, maybe 10. "We need to hold this position until backup arrives," Blake said, checking his ammunition. "We've got cover, limited entry points." Cole was shaking his head. "They won't stop, Blake. Even if we survive tonight, they'll keep coming. They'll come after you at the station. They'll come after anyone we care about. This only ends one way. What are you talking about? Cole reached into the pocket of his hospital gown and pulled out a handcuff key. Before Blake could react, Cole had snapped one cuff around Blake's wrist and locked the other to the bed rail. Cole, what the hell? I'm sorry, big brother. Cole picked up both service weapons. You've protected me my whole life. You took a bullet in the paperwork to keep me safe. Now it's my turn. Don't do this! Blake yanked at the handcuffs, but they held firm. Cole, goddammit, don't you walk out that door! Cole moved toward the hallway. The footsteps were closer now, maybe 20 feet away. Cole looked back one last time, and Blake saw something in his brother's eyes that broke his heart. Acceptance, determination, and a love so fierce it hurt to witness. Thank you, my brother, Cole said softly. I love you. Then he stepped into the hallway. Gunfire erupted like the end of the world. Blake screamed his brother's name, thrashing against the handcuffs hard enough to tear skin. The sounds of combat echoed through the hospital. Pistol shots, shouts, bodies hitting the floor. Then silence. Then sirens in the distance. Then more gunfire, sharper, more controlled. The distinctive crack of LAPD service rifles. Someone unlocked Blake's handcuff. A SWAT officer, face obscured by tactical gear. Clear, Sergeant. You're safe. Blake shoved past him and ran into the hallway. 9 bodies lay sprawled across the hospital floor, blood pooling on white linoleum. Blake recognized faces from his surveillance in Pasadena, crew members, enforcers, the people who'd been hunting his brother. But Cole wasn't among them. Where is he? Blake grabbed the SWAT officer's vest. The other officer, where is he? Sir, these were all the suspects we found. We secured the floor, but Blake ran. He checked every room, every closet, every stairwell. The SWAT team followed, trying to contain him, but he was beyond reason. Cole wasn't there. His body wasn't there. And according to the final count, one of the crew members was also missing. The investigation lasted 3 weeks. Blake was placed on administrative leave, standard procedure for officer-involved shootings. He sat through interview after interview, recounting the events at the hospital, the ambush at the warehouse, the entire blood-soaked timeline. He told them about Pasadena, about his unauthorized investigation, about the note in his motel room. He didn't tell them about Cole's confession, about the undercover work that never officially happened. Some secrets stayed buried. The department ruled Blake's actions justified. Self-defense, protection of an endangered officer. Lieutenant Chen signed off on the report personally. Blake Walker was cleared to return to duty. He never did. 2 days after the official ruling, Blake submitted his resignation. The letter was brief. Effective immediately, for personal reasons. Chen tried to talk him out of it, but Blake's mind was made up. He cleaned out his locker, turned in his badge and weapon, and walked out of the station for the last time. The department held a memorial service for Cole Walker. Full honors, flag-draped coffin, the works. Never mind that they never found a body. Never mind that the evidence was circumstantial at best. Officer Cole Walker had died in the line of duty, protecting his brother and fighting a criminal organization. He was a hero. Blake stood at the service in a borrowed suit, accepting condolences from officers who'd worked with Cole, from commanders who'd barely known him. He nodded and thanked them, and felt nothing at all. 3 months later, Blake was in a different city, working a different job, living under a different name. He'd sold his apartment, severed his connections, started over in a way that only someone trained in police procedures could manage. He wasn't hiding, exactly, but he wasn't findable either. The phone call came on a Tuesday. Blake almost didn't answer. The number was blocked, unknown, but something made him pick up. Silence on the other end. Then a breath. Then a voice he'd thought he'd never hear again. Blake? His knees gave out. He sat down hard on the edge of the bed in his cheap rental apartment. Phone pressed to his ear, unable to speak. I'm sorry, Cole said. I'm so sorry, but I had to make them think I was dead. It was the only way to protect you. The guy who survived, we made a deal. He helped me disappear if I got him out safely. The department thinks we're both dead. They think the threat is over. Where are you? Blake's voice cracked. Somewhere safe. I can't tell you more than that. Not yet. But I needed you to know I'm alive. I needed you to know that everything you did for me, every sacrifice you made, it mattered. You saved me, Blake. More than once. More than you'll ever know. Blake closed his eyes. When can I see you? Someday. When it's safe. When enough time has passed. A pause. I love you, big brother. The line went dead. Blake sat in his apartment for a long time, staring at the phone. Some part of him wanted to be angry, at Cole for the deception, at himself for believing the lie, at the whole impossible situation that had torn his life apart. But mostly, he just felt tired. He thought about the choices that had led them here. The undercover assignment Cole should never have taken. The raid that went wrong. The official reports Blake had falsified to protect his brother. The ambush in the warehouse. The message in the motel room. The shootout in the hospital. Every decision had seemed small at the time. Reasonable. Necessary. Now Blake understood the truth. Some decisions are never small. They accumulate like falling snow, one flake at a time, until the weight of them brings down everything you've built. But some truths are worth that cost. Some truths save lives. And some truths need to disappear entirely, buried so deep they can never surface again. Because that's the only way the people you love survive. Blake Walker had given his brother more than protection. He'd given him a chance at a new life, purchased with lies that would haunt them both forever. And if he had to make the same choice again, knowing everything he knew now, understanding the full price of his decisions, he wouldn't change a thing. That was the burden of brotherhood. That was the cost of love. And Blake would carry it for the rest of his life. So, that's the end of this story, but there are plenty of other great ones right here. Before you go, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring that little bell.